Is your kid having a hard time in school and you need to have a school meeting? Well, you need to get prepared. That's why you need to listen to this episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Roseann, and I'm a mental health trailblazer. And join me as we have real conversations about real solutions to kids' problems. And today, we're talking about how to have a school meeting so we can get our kids the help they need. Let's dive in. So you're going to have the dreaded parent-teacher conference or a school meeting or even a 504 or IEP meeting. What do you need to do to make sure your kid gets what you need? And it's not like getting your root canal, because really that's what I often think of meetings, especially IEP meetings. Okay, so I have 7 steps for you on how to have a good parent-teacher conference or meeting. Number 1, create an agenda. Okay, you need to have an agenda that lays out, what are your questions. Good schools come up with their own agenda, but we just are going to assume you're going to have your own agenda. It's better to take charge of a meeting. And I don't mean that in any negative way, but when you're clear about what your expectations and what your questions are, people can be better prepared. I like to send that in advance if possible. 2, you're going to talk to your child. You're going to find out, without shame or blame, what's going on. Okay, so you've been trying to get this project in. It's been 6 weeks, and Jessica, it's not happening, right? But this isn't the first time that's happening. And I just want to try to figure out, because maybe there's something missing. There's, whatever you want to say to your kid, but make it as like a detective problem solving. That's how I always talk to my kids. I'm here. I'm your advocate. I'm your partner. Let's figure out what's going on and get data from them. Don't make assumptions. You really want to hear what they have to say. It's really interesting. I always talk to the kids, even if they were 3 years old. And, it's really about asking, don't ask yes or no questions. Ask questions they have to respond to, and if all else fails, I'd like to say, if you had a magic wand, what would school look like? What would you need to have this task done? Something like that, right? And then that kind of gives them a picture like, oh, a magic wand. And even teenagers love that question, right? If I had a magic wand in my geography class, my algebra class, I like geography. What would it look like? Well, I wouldn't have the class. How about that? There'd be no grades because I'm terrible in geography. No, not as much. Algebra for sure. Terrible, right? Okay. Number 3, listen. Come to the meeting and listen. I know you've got an agenda. You may think you know the answers, but most teachers are caring people. There's a subset of people who are there because they like to control others. But most teachers are good people. So come with an open mind, listen, hear what they are. If we hear a lot of blaming language, your kid's this and, whatever, you're going to hear things like not working to their potential, of course, but really ask questions. Well, why do you think that's happening? Really important. 4, examine the data, or as I like to say, show me the data. We really want to see, what is there? Grades, reading levels, like, come, if your kid's got a reading problem, say, I want every reading assessment that's ever been administered to him in the district, and I want to see it. Because then you could see like, wow, they're really not making progress, or, oh, they made progress until here. They're there. That data is there. Every student has data. Let's look at the data. Let's see what they can and can't do. Let's see what the data looks like on the daily in terms of quizzes and regular tests within the classroom. Let's look at, if they bombed one, exam out of, 6, like what happened here? And, also in that data, how did he do relative to the peers? How did she do on this one exam with the rest of the class? Did the rest of the class fail, or did just, Jessica fail? That's really important. Okay. Number 5, ask what supports are available, right? This is a silly question, you might think. Of course there's supports available. And if they were available, they'd offer them to my kid. No, Just because they're available doesn't mean your kid gets them. So squeaky wheel gets the grease. Ask, okay, well, she's really having a hard time with writing. What supports are available? And then say, okay, is that it? Are there other supports? Ask the questions, hear what's there. Don't say no. Don't say no to writing lab. Certainly say to no to things that put it back on your kid. Like if your kid has terrible inattention and executive functioning, and they're like, well, they're just going to have to learn their skills. No, they're not. Okay. 6, make a plan. So whatever you decide in that meeting, write it down, make a plan. When I sum up a meeting, I like to say, and this is what I heard. We agreed to this, this, and this. What's the timeline? Okay. When are we meeting again? Oh, let's get our calendars and meet again, and really make things very, very explicit. In that plan, your plan might be to ask for higher level services, 504 plan or an IEP. That might be part of that plan. And please know that special education today is not what you think it was. When most people who, parents, right, and who might be listening are going to be in their 30s or 40s and 50s. And, we always think, oh, we knew who those special ed kids were. You do not know who special ed kids are today. It's very much integrated in the regular classroom. And when they get older, you can't even tell where those classes are. All kinds of students of different levels, including even honor students, sometimes can have a 504 and IEP. So make a clear plan, decide, what the issues are, what you're working on, and make a clear follow-up with a date for a meeting. Okay, 7 is the follow-up. So make sure you follow up. Make sure you send an email. I would send an email summary to those teachers. Send that plan to them. Don't mess around. And if there wasn't a teacher there, include them on it. Include the principal if you want. Okay. And that way we have data. If we, tracking of data, that's really important. That, because if you do ask for a 504, somebody said they're not going to do something, you're like, oh, we had this plan and everybody agreed. And see, on March 5th, I emailed it to but you have to follow up. Some teachers are really on it. Teachers are really overwhelmed and also like very traumatized during this pandemic. Really, really important. And of course, whenever you are worried about your kids' learning, attention, absolutely their mental health, get help. Do not put it on a school to provide that help for you only. You are a parent. There are lots of things you can do, like, for example, executive functioning. I have my executive functioning toolkit. You can get that help. And you can utilize it on your own. It has a 30-day plan. You got my book. It's going to be okay. But if you're really worried about mental health, you got to find a licensed mental health provider. It's not going to go away. You're not going to wish it away. And, if your kid was a diabetic, you wouldn't be like, suck it up. You don't need that insulin. No, but we do this with mental health because we think it's not as much of a priority. So nobody ever regrets getting help. They only regret when they don't. And I hope that when you go into that school meeting, you feel more confident, treat it like a business meeting, and always be positive and as kind as possible. If it's an in-person meeting, show up with fruit, lots of accolades. It's a lot harder for people not to do things for nice people.